Hey there, hope you're having a wonderful day. In this video, we're going to cover static members, so static variables and functions inside classes. And essentially, static members are variables or functions that are shared by all instances of a class. And in memory, they do not exist on the stack or the heap. Instead, they exist in a third place called static or global memory, and they are created at compile time and cleared when the program ends. So static members are associated with the class, but they are not dependent on any instance of the class. So let's go over an example. Here I'm going to create a class, and let's say I want to represent a warrior for a video game. So I'm going to do class warrior. And we can add some data members or member variables. So what does a warrior have? Well, a warrior has a weapon, and here I'm just going to represent the weapon as a string, so it's going to be the name of the weapon. And in order to purchase weapons, a warrior needs money, so here I'm going to add money, and I can actually initialize this to 0. Alright, so we have a warrior class with a weapon and money, and let's create some functions. So these functions will be public, and I'm going to add a constructor. And for now, I'm just going to make it so that when we create a warrior object, we're going to automatically add 500 to the money. So money plus equal 500. All right, so we have our constructor. Now the next thing we need to do is equip a weapon. So I can create a function called equip. And essentially, it's going to assign the weapon to the warrior. Since this data member is private, we cannot directly access this data member and assign it a value. Instead, we're going to do it through a setter. So in this case, I named it equip, and we're going to pass in a string. So this is going to be a const reference weapon, and we're going to pass in an optional parameter. So a warrior can purchase a weapon and equip it, or perhaps the warrior already has the weapon in storage, for example, and can just equip that. So here I'm going to pass in an optional parameter, cost, and this is going to be 0 by default. So if cost is greater than money, we're going to just print a message, insufficient money, and return. Otherwise, we can just equip the weapon. Now here we have the parameter name weapon, and we have the data member name weapon. So to distinguish the two, I'm going to use the arrow function. So this arrow weapon is going to be weapon. And of course, if we do purchase the weapon with money, we have to deduct the cost from the money. So here I'm going to do money minus equal cost. Now what else do I need? Well, we can print the information of the warrior. So over here, I can add print warrior. And since we're just printing the information of the warrior and not changing any of the values, I can mark this method as const, and I can just do cout weapon space money. Okay. And we are getting an error over here, and that is because you always need to add the semicolon at the end of your class declaration. Alright, so now we have a warrior class. Now let's create some instances of the warrior. So in the main function, I can declare warrior, warrior1, warrior, warrior2, and warrior, warrior3. And I can put them all on the same team. So let's create a vector of warriors. And I'm just going to call this team, and we're going to initialize this with warrior1, warrior2, warrior3. And let's print out the information for each warrior. So I'm going to use a for loop. So for const reference of warrior, warrior in team, warrior.print warrior. All right, now let's save and run the program. And you can see for each warrior, we get empty string for the weapon and 500 for the money. Now what I can do is team at index 0, which is going to be warrior1, I can do equip sword. And here I'll pay 300. Now let's copy this, paste it over here, and save and run the program. All right, so here you can see in the beginning, we have 3 warriors on the team. Each one does not have a weapon, and each one has 500 for money. And then afterwards, for the first warrior at index 0, we purchase a sword for 300. And now you can see the weapon is sword and the money is 200 since we deducted 300. And the other two warriors still don't have weapons. So they have 500 each. So this is pretty simple. You have warrior class and each warrior has a weapon and money. Now, since these warriors are part of the same team, in many video games, the team will be sharing a single pool of money. So instead of each warrior having their own money or account or wallet, the total amount is shared among the team. So how can we represent this? Well, we can use a global variable, but with a global variable, it detaches the value from the class. We want to associate this value with the class. So for that, we're going to use static variables. And to do that, we just need to add the static keyword. So let's scroll back up. So over here, we want to make money static. So I'm going to add the keyword static like so. Now, since this data member is a static data member, it is not going to be associated with each instance of the class, and therefore we cannot initialize it to 0. So I'm going to remove this. And if we can't initialize it to 0, if I try to add 500, we might get some undefined behavior. So how can we initialize this value? Well, over here, I can add a declaration. So we have int warrior ;_ of money. So essentially, this variable money, this static variable, is part of the warrior class namespace. And here, I'm just going to initialize this to 0. All right, so now for each instance of warrior, they will not have their own separate variable for money. Now, all the warriors will share one variable. And if I scroll back up, you can see if I hover over this in the constructor, we get money as a static int variable. And the same over here. And if I scroll back down, before when we created 3 warriors, each warrior was given 500 for money. And each of the warriors had their own set of money. So now if I save and run the program, you can see when we print out the warriors, for each warrior, the money will display as 1500 because they are all sharing the same variable. So you add 500 3 times for each warrior created. And when the first warrior purchases a sword for 300, you can see the balance goes down to 1200. And if we print out the other 2 warriors who don't have weapons, you can see their money is also displaying as 1200. Okay, so now all 3 warriors in this team share the same money value. Now, why would you want a team to share the same value? Well, if each one had their own money, then they can't give money to each other to purchase better weapons for one another. So for example, if I copy this and I give the second warrior a sword and I copy it again and I give the third warrior, let's say a spear, and in this case, I'll make it cost 900. Before sharing the money, this warrior would not have been able to purchase the spear since the warrior is only initialized with 500. So if I save and run the program, you can see for the 3 warriors, they share the same money. So for 1500, they can split it amongst themselves and buy 2 swords and 1 spear. And after that, the warriors have no more money left. Alright, so that's static data member, and I can scroll up, and over here, what I like to do is I want to be explicit when I'm referring to the static variable. So over here, instead of just saying money, although I could leave it like so, I'm just going to add warrior : money. And over here as well, and here, and here. So this just makes it more obvious that money is a static data member. So if I save and run a program, you can see we get the same thing, okay? Now, just like with static member variables, we can have static member functions. So for that, all I need to do is create a new method and add the word static in front of it. And let's say I want to add money. I can just do warrior money plus equal money. So this static method can be called without creating any warrior. And why would you want to have a single method? Well, we want to modify the static variable. So let's say you're playing a game and you finish a quest and you are given an award. You only need to create one version of this function to update the value of money, since money is just one shared variable. So over here, after equipping all the weapons, what I can do is warrior : add money 10,000. And if I save and run the program, you can see we've updated the value of money and now it is 10,000. Alright, so that's the idea of static class members. They are useful when you want to create variables or functions to be shared by all instances of a class. And another example where you might want to use this in this video game is if you had an inventory system. So maybe you want to have one shared inventory, and that could be represented by a vector or a map. Basically, you want to have one shared storage for items for the team. So that's just another example. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. Hopefully you found this video helpful, and if you did, make sure you give this video a like. If you have any questions, let me know down below in the comments. And as always, if you want to stay up to date for more C++ programming tutorials like this one, make sure you subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.